Yeah, so today we are going to discuss about two very important, I would say, identification techniques, CSS selector and XPath. So, in the last session, we had introduced ourselves to this concept of CSS selector, but here we just, uh, I just explained a basic syntax of a very basic CSS selector query here. So here, which like when we write a CSS selector query, so we have to specify the tag name of a element which we want to identify, and into the square brackets we have to specify name of the attribute which we want to use for the identification purpose equal to its value. So this basic syntax we have already seen, but today we are going to discuss this CSS and one more identification technique, XPath, which is very commonly used. So we are going to understand both of these in a detail. So we are going to get into more details of both of this. So I have already created here a document, this one, and there is one more file which I have created where I have explained the syntaxes of here you will see the syntax of XPaths, mainly XPath syntaxes, and CSS also we have here. So let's understand both of this. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just open one application for our reference. So with the help of this application, we can understand different concepts, okay, from XPath as well as CSS. Now I'll just inspect this page, okay, and let's inspect any element. Let's say, for example, I'll inspect this one, a checkbox element, okay, this element. Now if I want to write a CSS query and XPath also, so we will we will understand both of them together, okay, so that uh, like I will try to write CSS as well as for that same element I will try to write XPath, so the difference would be clear, okay, here. But before we do that, we have to understand like few relationships. Okay, so when we inspect the element and we see the structure of the page, uh, every element on a page, it has I mean it uh, it observes some kind of a relationship with every other element on the page. Like for example, I'll just inspect this, and here we can see that we have a select tag. So this is a open tag, select, and this is the close. Slash select marks the close of that tag, and these tags, they are inside the select element. We can see here this is open select and this is close select, and these elements are inside it. So these three elements which are inside the select tag, they are children of select. Okay, so I'm explaining here different relationships which we usually see uh, every element observes inside an HTML page. So HTML, XML, these are the structured documents. So they have got some defined structure. Like if you see here, this entire document is inside the HTML open and HTML close tag. So every tag in HTML will have corresponding close tag, and elements which gets enclosed within the open and close, they become the children of the enclosing tag. So here HTML open and HTML close, so we have the entire document inside this HTML tag. So all the elements, they are inside it, so they are children of HTML tag. So let's understand few more relationships now. If we see here HTML, this is a closed HTML and it has got these two elements inside it. So these two are children of HTML tag. So when we say children, those elements should be exactly inside the enclosing tag, right? Now if I just open this up, so we see few more tags which are inside this head. For example, this meta. Let's take an example. Now what is the relationship between this meta and HTML? Are they in any direct relationships, parent or child, or they are in some indirect parental relationships? Let's understand. So as I said, this HTML has exactly inside it, it has this head tag. So this head becomes its children. And once I open this head tag, I can see this meta tag. So this meta tag is inside the head. So head is meta's parent and meta is head's child, as this meta is exactly inside this head tag. But then what is the relationship between this meta and HTML? Let's understand. So if we see the relationship from this tag, so parent of this tag is head and head's parent is HTML. So HTML is not a direct parent of meta tag, it's parent's parent. Similarly, if we see the relationship from this element, this meta is not exactly inside the HTML tag. Okay, hence it is not a direct child of it. A direct child of HTML is head and meta is child's child. Okay, meta is child's child, right? Now again let's go back to this and let's understand the same relationships which we just talked about here in this case. Now if I talk about this option element, so what is the relationship between this option element and select element? As this option element is inside the select element, so select element becomes the parent of option, right? And option becomes child of select, right? So this is very important to understand. So select is parent of option, option is child of select. Now these three elements are inside the select element, right? So select is the parent for all these three. So these three who share the same parent, they become siblings of each other. They are siblings. This is the same way we observe relationships in our real life. So people sharing the same parent, they are siblings of each other, right? Likewise, this 1, 2 and 3, these option tags, all of them are inside the select. So select becomes their parent, they become select's children, and as they have same parent, they become siblings of each other, right? Now let's understand one more very important relationship, that is a descendant and ancestor. Let's understand. So if I say this field set, okay, if I talk about this field set, who are the children of field set? When I say children, children should be immediate children, like these two. The elements which are exactly inside field set, they become children. Okay, this is child relationship. But if I say descendants, if I say descendants of field set, so who are descendants? So descendant means all the elements which are inside field set. Means when I say give me a child of field set, it will give me these two elements because they are exactly inside field set. Okay, this is child. But if I say give me descendants, it will give me all the elements inside this filled set tag. That means it will give me this element, which is child. This also it will give me, which is a second child of filled set. And also it will give me all the children of this select as well. As long as any element is inside the filled set, that is descendant of it. So when we say descendant, it gives us immediate children of that element as well as any level of children. Okay, so it will give me child as well as child as well as child, any level of children of an element
Yeah.
it will get when we say
Yeah.
descendant. So descendants and child, these are different concepts. Let's not get confused
Okay.
here. When I say child,
Mm.
it is an immediate child. And when I say
Yeah.
descendant, it does include child, but not only children, immediate children, but it will give us all children's of, all childs of that element.
Okay.
Okay, in short, it will give us all the elements which are enclosed within this filled set. So that element could be of any level, as long as it is falling inside this filled set open and filled set close, that would be
Yeah.
given us with descendant.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so let's understand one more relationship. When I say parent, when I say parent of option, so this is the parent, which is immediate parent. But when I say ancestor, so ancestor means this element's parent, parents parent, parents parent, parents parent, any level of any element which is falling on the parent hierarchy until the root of the page. So this is the root of the page, this. So all the elements until this which are falling on the parent hierarchy of a given element, they are ancestors, right? So parent is immediate parent, ancestors means all the elements until the root
Above
of the
that.
page which are
Yeah.
falling on the parent hierarchy of a given element. When I say child, it is immediate child. When I say descendant, it means any level of children for a given element. Clear?
Yeah.
And when I say siblings, so all the elements which are enclosed within the same element, they become siblings of each other.
Yeah.
Clear?
Yeah. Clear.
Okay. Now, let's understand how can we write the CSS and XPath now. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
step by step, let's go. Now, let's say I want to write a CSS selector for this element, option element, and I want to write like this. So how would I write? I would say option. Okay, if I include only a tag, so it will give me, you can see here there are 15 elements I got. Okay, there are 15
Mm-hmm.
elements with this tag. Okay,
With option. Yeah.
yeah, but if I want to be a specific here, that
Mm-hmm.
then I can include inside the square bracket, I can include an attribute of an element which I
Okay.
want to retrieve. So for example, I'll say value equal to BMW.
Okay.
Okay, so this is giving me an option element which has value attribute set to BMW, right?
Okay.
So this is what the syntax we had used yesterday in our script, playwright script. Now if I
Okay.
want to convert it into an XPath, so it would be very simple. Our XPath should start with two forward slashes. There is
Yeah.
a tag name, and you should have @ before the attribute name. Rest, it's
Yeah.
all same. I mean, your XPath should start with forward slashes, and attribute should have
Okay.
right? Now this
So
is
option will become option is like a
this is a tag name.
this is a tag name.
Yeah,
Okay.
and this is attribute name. This is attribute value.
Yeah. Okay.
Clear?
Yeah,
Now
clear.
let's understand few more XPaths and CSS syntaxes. Now let's say I want to write an XPath for example, this checkbox, and I want to use
Mm-hmm.
ID attribute. Okay, so how I
Yeah.
write an XPath? Sorry, CSS. I would say option
Yeah.
ID equal to, and I would say BMW
Yeah.
check. This one, ID equal to BMW check,
Yeah. Yeah.
like this,
Yeah.
right? This is,
Yeah.
and another not sorry, it is not option, it is input. The tag name is input. So input ID equal to BMW check. A tag name here is
Yeah.
input and ID
Yeah.
BMW check. Okay. Now if you want to
Yeah.
use an ID attribute, there is a short form which you can use for this. So you can
Mm-hmm.
write this in this way also. Input hash. So hash is used to indicate an ID attribute. Hash BMW check. So
Okay.
this will give you an element having a tag name input and ID set to BMW check. This is a short form
Okay.
which you can use in case of ID attribute. So there are short forms available for two attributes. One is ID and one is
Mm-hmm.
class. Okay.
Okay.
So if I, let's say I want to write a, for example, I want to write an XPath for, so I'll just inspect this. Say this element I have inspected, and it has class called btn-style. Okay, now if I want to write this I mean XPath for this, then I'll say using a class equal to btn-style, right? So there are two elements with this, but we got those elements, btn-style. These two elements we got, right? Class
Yeah.
btn-style. So there is a short form or shortcut, whatever you call it as, for this also,
Mm-hmm.
and you will say dot input dot btn-style. So this is for, you know, an element input which has btn-style class set.
Okay.
Okay, this is a short form for class, and hash is for ID. Okay, now
Yeah.
if I want to apply multiple attributes, okay, like for example,
Yeah.
in this checkbox
Yeah.
here, if I want to apply multiple attributes in an XPath, so I would say input ID equal to BMW check, right? So I would say ID equal to,
Mm-hmm.
or BMW, yeah, BMW check. Let's write it for checkbox. ID equal to BMW check. Okay, this is one attribute. and another attribute I can apply by writing one more pair of square brackets, and I would say type equal to checkbox. So this will give me such an element which has a tag name, input, and having both these attributes set, id and type. Id equal to BMW check and type equal to checkbox. So whatever element has both of these attributes set to these values having tag name
Yeah.
input, that would be returned to us.
Okay.
Okay, this is how we can combine two attributes. So that's what is written here. Now if I
Okay.
want to say write a checkbox, write a XPATH where I would say I want an element id of which starts with BMW. Okay, starts with. So I don't want to include the whole value of that attribute. I want to include only a starting part of it, right? So I would say
Yeah.
BMW and this caret. Okay, id caret equal to, sorry, it should be before caret. So like whichever elements in our page has id attribute set to a value which starts with BMW. It could be BMW radio. After BMW, it could be radio, it could be ABC, it could be anything. But the value of that ID should start with BMW. Getting my point?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is how you can write this starts with. Then ends with similarly. So let's say I want to write an XPath ID attribute of which has a value set which ends with radio. So I would say dollar.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
dollar. So you can see here dollar. So radio
Yeah.
ends with radio, and there are three elements which has this
Radio.
radio, which ends with radio,
Okay.
right?
Mm.
And if we want to say contains, means that particular uh, you know set of characters, it could be in between, it could be at the start, it could be at the end, as long as that contains that, so we will get it. Okay, so I will just go to this, inspect this, and let's say I want to write an XPath based on this placeholder. So as long as a placeholder contains name in it, I want that element. So I would say placeholder star equal to name. So as long as that name word is present in the value of the placeholder attribute, I'll get that element. Okay, so that is what contains. It could be anywhere in the value of that attribute. This name could be at the start, at the end, in the middle, anywhere. Okay, clear?
Yeah. Clear.
Okay, now let's understand few more CSS selector syntaxes. Now let's go to this now. So let's say I want to write, say I'll say option. Okay, I'll simply say option here. So I'll get a lot of elements here. You can see I'm getting 15 elements with option,
Yeah.
right? But I can be little specific. So what I want to do is I want such option elements which are children of select.
Okay.
So I would say select space. Okay, but still I am getting around 15
15.
elements. But then I can be little specific about the select tag itself. So I would say I want select hash car select. So what I'm saying is I want option elements which are
Yeah.
children of such a
Yeah.
select element, id of which is set to car select. So I'm being a
Yeah.
specific here about the select element, about the parent.
Yeah.
Okay, so using a space you can denote a child relationship. So this is a child
Yeah.
relationship. So first parent would be found and
Yeah.
its children with the option tag would be found. Okay,
Okay.
now
Yeah.
as we have already understood that child is exactly below. Child
Yeah.
is the element which is exactly inside, I mean not below, exactly inside, that is always a child. Okay,
Yeah.
but let's say if there is some other element between this select and the option, then option will no longer be a child of select because there is one more element which is inside. So option would be
Yeah.
child's child in that case. So that will not
Yeah.
be found here using this. Let me
Yeah.
give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say from this div I want to find this option. I want to start my CSS from this div
Mm-hmm.
whose id is this. Now what is the relationship between this div and option? Is option direct children of div?
No.
It's children's child, right?
Children. Yeah.
So if I write this, that div and then id and option, so here also it is giving me, you can see this is a descendant. So this is working like a descendant, it could be of any level of child. This space is denoting a descendant relationship. Descendant means what? Any level of child, is it? Right? No. Descendant means any level of child. So it is giving me any level of child. But if I say this, then it is not giving me. Because this denotes a child relationship. This denotes child relationship. Okay, so it will give me in this case, select case. You with me? Archana? Yes, this is where I'm getting. So
Sorry, I
space,
was on mute.
sorry.
Yeah.
So this
I was on
element,
mute. I was talking to myself.
yeah, no problem. But this denotes a child relationship and space
Mm-hmm.
denotes descendant. Okay,
Okay.
this
Yeah.
is child.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I give div,
Yeah.
if I start this XPATH from this div, then and if I'm
Yeah.
using this sign, it will not give me the element because my option is not a direct child of a div, it's a descendant.
Okay.
See, it is
Okay.
not giving me. But if I say space, then it is giving me because it is
Okay.
descendant, child, any level of child. You can reach to
Mm-hmm.
any level of child of an element using descendant relationship. So space denotes
Okay.
descendant relationship and arrow denotes child relationship. So it is not giving me this time because my option is not a direct child of div, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
this is what is mentioned here.
So in the real world scenarios in automation, where we are using this CSS path or XPath or in
For
writing the
finding the
test case.
elements, this is a very common scenario. Like, see, you have to find the elements, right, for performing any kind of interaction with it, as I mentioned you, right? So
Yeah.
finding the elements, you need to write this only, CSS
Okay.
XPaths, because unless you find an element, you cannot do anything inside your test.
Yeah.
Okay, now
Yeah. Yeah.
another point. Say if I want to do the same stuff with XPath, then how would I do it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So I would start this XPath with / div,
Yeah.
and this is an id @id equal to
Mm-hmm.
this, right? And in XPath, descendant relationship is with 2 forward slashes.
Yeah.
Okay, and single
Mm-hmm.
is child relationship,
Yeah.
and double is descendant relationship.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm saying give me the option element which is descendant of div which has id equal to this. So this is working like a
Mm-hmm.
predicate. If you have ever worked with SQL queries, database queries, there
Mm-hmm.
is a concept
Yeah.
called predicate, where clause. So these
Yeah.
are the predicates. So basically your XPath or CSS query gets executed from left to right. So first it finds the leftmost element, and with the in the relationship of that, I mean in the context of that element, then your further query gets evaluated.
Yeah.
Okay, this is how XPath or CSS queries are executed from left to right always.
Yeah. Left to right. Okay.
Now let's understand. So class we have already seen class, right? In case of uh, XPath, like there is no shortcut, like the way we have in CSS, we have hash for ID, dot for class. So there is no such shortcut in case of XPaths. Okay. Now let's understand sibling. How can we use this following sibling? Okay. So what I want to do is I want to write an XPath for this element by using its relationship with this. Getting my point, right? So I would say option. So give me an option element. So it is giving me all these 3 option elements, right? So I will be little specific here now. So I will say option element value equal to BMW. So this is giving me this element. Now what is the relationship between these two? As I mentioned, they are siblings of each other. But what kind of sibling is this for this element? It's a following sibling. So this Benz element and Honda element, these two elements are following siblings of the first option element because they are following after it. If I talk about this Benz element, then the BMW is preceding sibling because it is following before it, and Honda is Benz following sibling, right? So I can say slash following dash sibling colon colon option. Now you can see we got 2 elements. Okay, because this BMW element has got 2 following siblings with option tag. These two are following siblings of this option. Following sibling 1, following sibling 2, right? So I can be specific here with the indexes. So I can say give me first following sibling. So this is giving me first. If I say give me second, it is giving me second following sibling, right? So this is how you can make use of following sibling relationship. Following, preceding, both we can make use of. So let's see how can we make use of preceding. So option, I would say value Honda and preceding sibling. Now if you see, this Honda has 2 preceding siblings. Preceding sibling means the sibling which falls before, right? So preceding sibling 1, preceding sibling 2. So I'm saying here give me second preceding sibling of this Honda, so it is giving me this BMW. If I say give me first, it will give me the first preceding sibling. Clear? Yes, Archana, you are on mute. I
Clear.
hope it is clear, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So same we can achieve in this case also. Okay, so what I'll do is, okay, this is the syntax. So see, this is a, as I mentioned, child relationship. So I would say or I can make it this also, like I would say div
Mm-hmm.
id.
Yeah.
So this will give me the div, then space
Yeah.
denotes a descendant relationship option.
Yeah.
So I'll say give me
Yeah.
the option element which has value equal to Honda.
One. Yeah.
Okay, now let me see.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just removed this single quotes. And this, correct. So we got this Honda element.
Yeah.
Now let's do
Yeah.
BMW. So I would say BMW.
Okay.
Okay, now if I want the following sibling of it,
Yeah.
then I can say plus option.
Okay. Okay.
So this gives us the following sibling. Do you see it gave me the following sibling?
So which will be the Benz? Yeah.
Yeah, following sibling for this BMW is Benz.
Okay. So the one after that one. Is
One
that
after
right?
that one, that is following sibling always.
Yeah.
Correct?
Correct.
And if I want the second following sibling, then I would say colon. Now I don't think it will give us the second following sibling, because that is only
Mm-hmm.
possible in case of childs, not in case of
Mm-hmm.
siblings, but this at least will give you the first uh, sibling.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's understand uh, following. We have already understood about how to use attributes in case of XPath as well as
Mm-hmm.
in case of CSS. Following sibling we have understood, class ID we have understood. We have also understood how to represent child and descendant relationships. Now nth child.
Mm-hmm.
So nth child means a particular child. So this I am talking about
Okay.
a child relationship, okay, specifically, not sibling and all.
Yeah.
So if I say give me the option element, so this
Yeah.
is giving me these option elements which are descendant. Okay, now if I
Yeah.
want this one, so I want to specify index. So there is colon
Yeah.
nth. So this is how it is, nth dash child,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can specify the index like this,
Yeah.
2 3 1. So this is how you can specify the index, nth dash child.
Yeah.
Okay, and in XPath I have
Yeah.
already explained how can you specify the index. So let's convert this into XPath. So slash slash div, you have to simply specify at the rate before the attribute name, and here for sibling relationship you will say double slashes, and instead of this nth and all, you will say in the square bracket you will specify either 1 or 2 or 3. Okay, this is the equivalent XPath. Clear?
Yeah. Yeah.
This one is the equivalent XPath. This is for following sibling.
Okay.
Okay, Now first child. Yeah, so in case of CSS there is a first dash child, so I would say give me, so I would say div. Okay, then option colon first dash child. So this is giving me the first element. So this is equivalent to nth dash child 1, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is equivalent to, sorry, this is equivalent to this, and this is equal nth dash child 1. These two are equal, right? In case of
Yeah.
XPath, you can do something like this. There are two
Mm-hmm.
ways actually. At the rate
Yeah.
id equal to this, then descendant option, and then you can do either, you can say 1, or there is a function also called first.
Yeah.
Wait, last is a function. I think there is no function called first, sorry. So for first it should be like 1, but for last you can
Mm-hmm.
use this last function. This will give you the
Yeah.
last one. Okay,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
same last thing you can achieve in XPath, sorry, in CSS in this way: div id, then you will say this, and then you will say colon last, I think child dash last. Wait, last dash, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this is the equivalent CSS.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, contains I have already mentioned in case of CSS, but in case of XPath, if you
Yeah.
want to use contains, so it is, let's say
Mm-hmm.
you want to write an XPath where your ID contains word radio.
Yeah.
This we have already seen for CSS, right? So for XPath it would be
Yeah.
/ input, and then you will mention a function called contains. There is a function
Yeah.
in XPath called function, called contains, which takes two arguments.
Yeah.
First argument is the name of the attribute,
Yeah.
okay, comma a string which you want, I mean, which should be there in this ID attribute value. So I would say radio.
Yeah.
So this says that give me such an input element whose ID attribute contains radio string.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the, and in case of like, what would be the equivalent CSS for this? So you would say input
Mm-hmm.
ID star equal to
Yeah.
radio. This is contains
Okay.
in CSS, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Now for starts with, we have already seen for um, like we have already seen for CSS, but here there is a function starts dash with Okay, starts dash with and BMW, right? So you will see the elements,
Yeah.
input elements, the
Yeah.
input elements whose ID value starts with BMW word, starts with. Anything could be after it, but the ID value should start with BMW. That's what this starts with. And equivalent, we have already seen equivalent CSS for this would be caret.
Yeah.
Yes. And there is an ends with also. So
Okay.
radio ends with radio word.
Mhm.
This won't, I guess, work with this. This doesn't work here in the browser, but it will definitely work inside the script because browser engine. This is a
Mhm.
like new addition in browser engine 2.0. You know, the browser engine which runs the XPath.
Okay.
So this is not
Yeah.
working inside the browser, but when
Mhm.
you will use in the test, it will work. Okay,
Okay.
and the corresponding CSS for this would be dollar. So ends with this we have already seen,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? Then
Yeah.
attribute starts with, ends with, we have seen this. So if I want to write an XPath which contains certain attribute, doesn't matter what value is set, but as long as that
Yeah.
attribute is set to that element, I want that element. Okay, so I would
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
input
Mhm.
slash slash input at the rate id. It means that as long as id attribute is set to the input element, I want that element. I am not specifying the value which is set to that attribute. That attribute is set,
Mhm.
that's fine. I want that element. Okay, doesn't matter which value it is set with.
Yeah.
Okay, and same thing we can do with CSS like this. Input ID. Okay, so slash slash input and the red ID and equivalent CSS this. Clear?
Yeah.
So this document I will share with you, which
Okay.
contains all these examples. Also will share with you this file, which contains, yeah, one more very interesting XPath would be that if you want to write an XPath based on a text of an element. Text means, I'll show you.
Yeah.
Here, okay. So I want to, this is a text of an element. The text which is between the element or within the
Yeah.
element. So you can see here the option element, and this is a
Mhm.
end element option, and between open and close we have a text.
Yeah.
So if you want to write an XPath based on this, you can write something like this. You will say option text function
Mhm.
equal to BMW. Sorry, BMW. So this will give you
Okay.
this element
Oh, okay.
which contains the text. Sorry, which has the
Okay.
text. Which has the text BMW.
Okay. Mhm.
Okay, but if you want to write an XPath which says that a text contains few words or few letters, not, you don't want to
Mhm.
match the entire text, you want to match only
Yeah.
BM, say.
Yeah.
So you would say contains that function which we had seen here,
Mhm.
Here we had
Yeah.
used attribute. So instead of that, here you will say text
Right. Yeah.
BM.
Okay.
Okay, so as long as BM is there,
Mm-hmm.
you will get it.
Okay.
Okay, let me show you here, right?
Yeah.
Now that starts with, ends with, you can use with the text also. Okay, so
Yeah.
here I would say starts dash with B, and I would say text starts with B, like this.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are two elements actually. One is this one and one is this one, because both of them the start
Have the
with B,
start B. Yeah. Yeah.
right? And ends with also we can use, but ends with is the recent addition, so it is not
Mm-hmm.
working inside the browser. Ends dash with, and I would say W, but this is not working, but this will definitely work once we will use it
Mm-hmm.
inside the script. Inside the browser only it is not working,
Okay.
right? Clear?
Yeah. Yeah. Clear.
All the relationships, child, siblings, then parent,
Yeah.
ancestor, descendant,
And
how
yeah.
can we use different I mean, how can we represent those relationships? So child relationship is represented in XPath using forward slash, and in
Yeah.
here it is represented with this greater than sign. Child
Yeah.
sorry, descendant relationship in XPath is represented with double slash. Here it is represented
Mm-hmm.
with space, right? When you want to use
Yeah.
ID in XPath, you will say at the rate ID. Here there is a short form to it, hash ID,
Yeah. Yeah.
hash I mean, class, at the
Mm-hmm.
rate class. Here it is dot, following sibling.
Yeah.
This is the following sibling. When you use attribute,
Yeah.
this is how you have to use it with at the rate, name of the attribute equal to value. Here, the
Yeah.
at the rate is not required, but in the square brackets you have to write multiple attributes, right? So multiple attributes we have seen in CSS. In XPath also you can apply multiple attributes in the same way almost. So you would say option, um, or I will write it on XPath, say here. Okay, in this XPath I would on this checkbox I will write. So I would say give me input which has ID this and a type checkbox. So right. So I would say input at the rate ID at the rate type equal to ready, right? Two attributes you can apply. And in case of CSS it is ID equal to BMW radio and type equal to
Mm.
radio.
Yeah.
Checkbox radio, I mean any element you can write this XPath on, but this is the example. I mean, you can apply two attributes. And another option we have in XPath is uh, like you can write it like this also. This same, you can write it like, instead of writing it in the two square brackets, you can use and this and operator.
Yeah.
So this is also possible in case of XPath.
Yeah.
See, and you can
Mm.
do or also, element which has this ID or this type, likewise, or ing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is also possible in XPath. So it will give you the such an element which has id set to this or type is set to this. So either of this needs to be set, and for and both of this needs to be set for giving you the element,
Yeah.
right? So when you say
Yeah.
and, you get only one element because this is the element which has id BMW radio and type is radio set. But when you say or,
Yeah.
it is giving us two elements, three elements. So this element has got both of these attributes set, but for this second one, even if id is not set to, so even if id is not set to BMW radio, but at least type is set to radio, right? So either of this
Yeah.
needs to be set. So that is what ORing is. Clear?
Okay. Yes.
Great.